everyone. I'm your host Avik, and this is Pleasure Principles, the podcast where curiosity meets the body's quiet genius. Today, we are slowing the world down on purpose. Like, what if ease isn't the opposite of achievement, but the doorway to richer sensation, kinder intimacy, and a life that hums with meaning? What if pleasure isn't a reward at the end of your to do list, but a practice that changes how you breathe, move, love, and lead? So, to explore that, I'm thrilled to please welcome my guest, Veronique Ory. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Avik. So happy to be here.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussions, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Veronique. So, Veronique is an intuitive movement and mindful awareness guide, international retreat leader, and the author of Shine On and Off the Mat. So, with 500 plus hours of yoga training, years of retreats worldwide, and a signature blend of yoga, storytelling, and the self inquiry, Veronique helps people meet themselves gently and remember how to shine. Yeah. So, from post Sandy stillness in NYC to the creation of the Shine membership. So her work invites us to treat the body as a vessel for both pleasure and purpose. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Veronique.
Thank you so much. Really, such a pleasure.
Hey, lovely. So Veronique, I'm in the portal of slowness, right? So when you say slowing down is a portal to the deeper pleasure, what does that look like in the body? Like in breathe, in micro sensations, and the way we place a foot on the floor. What do you say?
Mm. Yeah, I think what's coming through right now is it's almost the image that's coming to mind is like a slingshot. We've been catapulted in so much hurried busyness, faster, more, better kind of programming through this really strong acceleration in our technology and just the very fact that we're able to communicate with everyone at any moment throughout the day. I feel like the other side of or maybe the more appropriate metaphor would be a boomerang, like it's coming back to a reckoning that actually faster isn't better. We see this time and time again, right? When we do something hurriedly, we're not as mindful. We might make mistakes. The fast fashion or the you know the cars that are built very quickly. There's so many different examples of why we often hear people say, "Oh, they don't make it like they used to," right? The old cobblers or different traditions of trades where people would really take care to create something thoughtfully so that it wasn't like how many can we produce as the goal metric, but rather how well can I do this one thing? And so really when you're looking at that, it becomes a meditation in all that we do. And it would seem silly like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and meditate for 10 seconds before I rush off and do my to-do list. It's often said that if you don't have 5 minutes to meditate, that you should meditate for an hour because when you allow for more time, then you actually can listen more clearly and you open this portal to source, to divine, to God, whatever your belief system is. And it really does allow for space to be in this conversation of what actually matters. And we've seen that in different spaces, right? Through a global pandemic, through when there's been a blackout or uh, a kind of storm or natural disaster where we're forced to slow down. And people often remark in those instances of really looking at what is of greatest importance and what it is that actually matters.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah. Like for someone who only knows the hustle, what do you say? Like, what's a 60-second slow practice that they can try today without needing a mat or a mirror? What is it?
Mm. It's so individual to each person. I would say, are you someone that you feel more connected to movement? I know friends of mine, they need to run as fast as they can to burn off the energy before they feel ready to sit, for example. Whereas I know some people that they're slower, more that's their natural rhythm where, they would really relish having a slow morning with a cup of coffee or tea and having that space. It really doesn't require any material. You don't need to have the right clothes or a yoga mat or have a space that's, a perfect sanctuary. A lot of initial resistance that I hear is I don't have the time, I don't have the money, or I don't have the right clothes, or I don't have the proper yoga mat, or, I need to lose 10 pounds, or, my house is crazy, I can't concentrate. And so really what I would say overall for everyone is how do you connect to the place, the people, and the practice that resonates for you in the here and the now? So if your home feels like it's not an ideal place, where would be? Can you drive down the block and find a little park that you can find a private space under a tree? Or is there a spot, maybe at your office, there's a room that no one uses that you can find 5 minutes to go into in moments where you want to collect yourself before a meeting. I really love, before, like if you're going to pick up your kids or you're about to go into work, just taking even 5 breaths, whether outside of your office or if you're driving, put your hands on your heart or, maybe just on your lap, whatever feels natural to you, and just find some collected breaths in a way that feels easeful to you. And what's great is there's so many different styles. There's so many different access points to it. I would really invite you to explore and be in an experiment with yourself of what feels right today. And if that feels really elusive, you can definitely reach out to me. It's one of my favorite things to be in conversation is like really help guide what is the practice that resonates for you, right? What is the movement or the stillness or the practice that resonates for you in this season? And then it's a continuous conversation because certainly what resonates for me now is very different than what resonated for me, say, even last week. It changes all the time, and so it's so important to really tune into what's happening in the here and the now rather than what you think you should be doing or maybe what your friend is doing. It's in this age of Instagram, it's so tempting, someone will go on and say, "This changed my life," and then you think, "Okay, I'm gonna try this," and then it doesn't work. And it's like, well, of course it doesn't. It worked for this person. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. But you try it and it might, and maybe if it doesn't today, it might next week. And so, yeah, I think overall I would recommend be in curiosity and be in exploration. And really, as you turn up the dial in being aware of your own mindfulness and whatever it is that you're doing, you'll start to refine that for yourself naturally. And you'll just start to become a better discerner of what actually resonates in the moment.
Exactly. Exactly so. Yep. So, lovely. I mean, beautiful that we are not chasing the pleasure, but we are clearing the noise so it can surface. And I love that your cue is tiny, tactical, and doable in a crowded way. So, uh, lovely. So, and you also distinguish sensual aliveness from sexuality. So, how does the mindful movement reawaken the senses in a way that later enriches the sexual connection, solo or partnered, without forcing an outcome? What do you say?
Mm. Yeah, it's so wild. And I was thinking too in your intro, it's like each of our perception around pleasure and what we even label as a treat or something that we regard as sensual or something that feels alive and pleasurable in our body. And it's so hard to be in this conversation without influence, right? We're just so naturally picking up from other people, other instances, our, you know, expectations, all of those things come into play certainly. And and much like I was speaking about before, it's such a great time to be in the exploration of what actually resonates for you in the here and the now. And so what comes to mind in terms of pleasure, it's so interesting. So I think of the 14-year-old version of myself of what I regarded as a treat versus what is actually a treat. And I feel called to share this because I know this is so resonant for so many people of our relationship with food, our relationship with how we think we're going to be in romantic relationship with others, the way that we might show up and and be embodied, however that resonates for each of us. And there's outdated programming that we're still running subconsciously for most of us that's attached to maybe our upbringing or maybe ideas that we had. And so it's such a great opportunity to really almost like take the proverbial etch a sketch and shake it and clear what the old messages are and really tap into what is actually a practice of pleasure for you. And I think of this in connection to sacral chakra, of course. So this is your area around your hips. So there's a lot that can be gleaned here that is connected to sensuality, and it's also really connected to creativity. And so I love this in terms of connecting to different languages, to music, to art. It could be gardening, it could be creating food, because the way that we're taking in food, for example, is very much a mirror or an echo to the way that we decide to take in all of it. So if we're someone who is like on the rush in the hustle and needing to do things as quickly as possible to bring it a little bit full circle to the beginning, that's going to be very indicative of how it is we're experiencing pleasure. Like this idea that it has to be like fast and to the point versus if we decide to slow things down, then we're able to actually access things in a way that I think is a lot deeper and more profound.
Exactly. Wow. And um, like also one thing I feel like it also needs to be addressed. Like, what's a gentle boundary or maybe the phrase like someone can use with a partner to protect the slowness to so that the intimacy unfolds at the nervous system's pace, not the calendars. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think more and more overall, what I'm hearing is let's have pristine communication with one another. I think our biggest downfall is we have expectations and assumptions, and then we never say anything. And no one is going to psychically pick up these messages, or I shouldn't say no one, but very rarely would someone just read your mind and know what you're expecting, know what you're assuming. And so I think in a setting when you're separate from an encounter, it's having communication that's really clear so that everyone comes into the the circumstance in a way that you're you're aligned, and when you're aligned, then you each feel like you have that respect, that you are able to communicate in real time, that there aren't false pretenses or, you know, secret agendas. But when you're actually in that really strong communication, then actually everyone feels safe to access pleasure in a way that feels really liberating.
Mm. Wow. I mean, that all, I mean, it reframes the consent as the rhythm, not just the permission. And it also honors the timing, texture, and the body's yes arriving honestly. So that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. You're saying something, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say I think that there's been so much in modern culture of thinking that certain topics are taboo, you know, whether it's sexuality or money. And what's so interesting right now with the position of Venus and what I've been hearing astrologically of how we're in relationship to particularly relationships and money is when we're not speaking about these things openly, then there's a block against their expansion. There's a block against their ability to be in holistic harmony, so to speak. And maybe that doesn't necessarily translate to going around talking openly to everyone you meet about all of the things, but when you feel safe to do so in your close circle, starting to have these conversations can really be illuminating because oftentimes when we quiet this, there tends to be like sneaky shame that shows up, and we realize, oh, other people feel similarly, and if that's the case, like how do we kind of like shed these old identities so that we can be more open in these regards?
Wow. And also, the, uh, so I would love to bring about this contradictory part. Like, uh, kind of some listeners say that, or maybe people as well, I'll not take as a listener only, but people, that slowing down is a kind of luxury. So I have kids, caretaking, two jobs. So how do we democratize the pleasure so it isn't only for the time reach. So, what do you say?
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's so wild. So whenever I hear someone doesn't have the time, really what someone is saying is it's not a priority. Because if something is a priority, we make the time. That's historically true. And and that might sound naive or luxurious to say. However, I think if each person really looked at what is my priority today, right? Like, what are the things that must be done? And then what are the things that I'm doing that might actually be in direct contrast to that? And then I think greater picture, it's like, how do I want to connect to my creativity today? How do I want to connect to my joy today? How do I want to connect to nature today? How do I want to connect to meditation today? These aspects, they actually expand time. So if you've ever been on a yoga retreat, so I'll share that many of my guests, they'll remark on the first day, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how long this day is, like in the best possible way, because they don't have to worry about childcare, as you're saying. They're not worried about work or responding to emails or all of these things that tend to be draining to a certain regard, right? Like making the meals, cooking, doing the dishes, laundry, have to make the bed. All of a sudden, if all of those things were taken off of your plate and all you needed to do was meditate, do a yoga practice, you show up, delicious food is there for you. Like all of a sudden, this day is just like, wow, like we have all of this time and it's incredible. And so I think it's really important, to echo what I was saying before of really aligning with the people, the place, and the practices. Because when you align in that way, you realize there actually is a great deal of time. And so when you strip away the things that are draining or depleting and you just really take inventory of what can I actually let go of, can I delegate any of this to anyone? Whether you hire it out or you ask a friend, or, if you're in a partnership with someone. And so then it's like, okay, now that that's off my plate, I actually can slow down so that the things that I am attuning to, I can do so mindfully. And then when I'm attuning to my life's purpose with more attention, where it feels really deeply connected to source, then it's really profound. The time does really expand, and there's this permission for great expansion that happens. And I really have witnessed that the universe conspires to meet you when you're connected to that authenticity in that way.
Exactly. Exactly true. Wow. And like if someone has 5 minutes total in a day, where do you want them to spend that pleasure budget for the maximum return?
Mhm. This is so individual also, and and that might vary day to day. I quite love, particularly in the morning, and this might serve as inspiration for people, and take from it what you will. I really love keeping my phone away from me for as long as possible. So, not opening up that channel to be communicated with at all. And I seek to take my dog and my cup of coffee for a walk. So, getting morning light right away. And so it's movement, it's outdoors, it's being in the senses, which is really powerful. And then I see how I feel. So I'll come back home and I'll think, do I want to play the guitar? Do I want to sit and meditate? Do I want to move my body? Sometimes I want stillness. Sometimes I'll have created a morning music playlist and I'll just move intuitively. Um, and then sometimes, it's like you look in a room and well, this happens to me often where I'll just feel like I need to rearrange the furniture. And that's very pleasing to me, where I'll just take things off of the shelf. I'll I'll be with the stuff and decide, do I want to donate some of this? Do I want to gift anything to a friend? Because I think when we're actively in the conversation of what am I choosing for myself for this day, place, people, things, then there's this really tremendous amount of pleasure that comes through, because then you feel like, oh, this is a life that I'm living by design. It's not a life by default. It's not like, oh, wake up, same old, like, gotta get dressed, go to work, rinse, repeat. But rather, it's being in that conversation of like, wow, like, what do I get to do today? And when we're in that kind of conversation, that's extremely pleasurable.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. True. Exactly. Lovely, lovely. So, Veronica, I mean, thank you so much for reminding us that pleasure is not the finish line, but it's the way that we talk there and walk there. So, today we have learned that slowness isn't a laziness, but it's a precision, that sensuality can be a compass for sexuality without the pressure, and that micro rituals can stitch wonder into the most ordinary day. So, listeners, here's your two-step invitation for the next 24 hours. One slow minute, place a hand on your belly, breathe into your lower ribs, and feel your feet. Name three sensations without judgment. And the second one is one repair gesture with someone you love or with yourself. Offer a 20-second hug or a gratitude sentence that starts with my body appreciated. So, if this conversation lit a small candle inside you, share this episode, leave a review, and try one practice from Veronique's World, her book Shine On, Off and Off the Mat, the Shine membership, or one of her retreats. Your body already knows the way. Presence lets you hear it. So, Veronique, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
Yes, you're able to connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Veronique Ory. You can learn about all of my offerings at yogawithveronique.com. My retreats and my book and my Shine membership. There's a 7-day free trial for your listeners there. Would love to have you come in and experience the practices and be a part of the community.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for you, easy there, friends. And with this hope, I'm your host, Avik, and this is Pleasure Principles. Move gently, breathe generously, and let your life be textured with joy. We will see you next time. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.